Everyday Resonance does not provide psychotherapy or medical services and is not a substitute for these services. If you have or may have a psychological or medical condition, please see a licensed professional. I'm Priya.
Hi, and I'm Daniel, and you're watching Everyday Resonance, where we look at how we can align with our highest self in the world, just in the face of the ups and downs of what the world brings. And Priya, what do we focus on this program?
Everything in the human experience, from love to sex, relationships, work, spirituality, friendships, you name it, and I hope that we cover it.
Yeah, lots of great topics. And today we have a great guest. We're in the midst of focusing on love resonance, and right now the topic is conscious relationships, and actually we're just so grateful to have Breanna McWilliam with us today. We're about to go live with her to ask her some questions around what, Priya? What are we talking with Breanna about today?
Such a powerful topic today on different attachment styles, and if you don't know what they are, please stay tuned and maybe learn a little bit about yourself, perhaps partners, or even those that you have had relationships with in the past.
Yeah, and so why don't you go ahead and introduce Breanna?
Yes, so we are so excited to have Breanna McWilliam here today. She is an author, educator, and licensed and board-certified creative arts therapist with 13 years of experiences in the field. She uses a psycho-spiritual approach and helps adults struggling with insecure attachment go from feeling fearful and confused to confident and self-sovereign in their romantic relationships using creative arts interventions. She has co-authored 2 books on the subject, and currently she is the director for continuing education for Pratt Institute's Creative Arts Therapies Department, where she teaches personality development and thesis research. Oh, so glad to have her. She's going to be joining us via Skype today. Breanna, thank you so much.
Hi, Breanna. Hi, good to see you. So glad you're with us today.
Hi there. Can you hear me? I just unmuted myself.
Yes,
we can hear you.
There you
Yeah,
are.
Great. And so, I'll also say, along with the intro, that you should definitely check out her YouTube channel. If you just,
I know you have.
Yeah, that's right. So I've gained a lot from the wisdom that she shares on attachment styles on YouTube, and we're so grateful to have you on, Breanna. So, we were going to begin with just asking you to share an overview of relationship attachment styles, and we can start from there. So let's hear just an overview of the topic.
Well, sure. So just to provide a basic definition, attachment is an instinctual biopsychosocial drive to bond with and remain in close proximity to a caregiver in order to survive. So the nature of the bonding that evolves between a child and a caregiver is said to kind of create a blueprint for our later relationships in adulthood. And so this blueprint, it's kind of like a love map or a filter through which we tend to interpret our love relationships. And you might call this map or this filter your attachment style. And so there are 4 different attachment styles, one of which we refer to as secure attachment, and then there are 3 insecure attachment styles which manifest in a particular fashion.
Okay, so I heard you basically say the experience of attachment forms really young.
So yes, so there is some debate in terms of we do have attachments that form when we're very young. However, our attachment styles can evolve over time, and you can have a circumstance in which maybe you started off having one particular attachment style, but due to circumstances and or the attachment style of your partners, they can change.
And so I think either way, if it's impacting us from a young age or as we're growing older, it's an inner experience related to, let's say, trauma or patterning, that with focus, with becoming aware of it, with effort, we can start to impact that experience. And also, the more that we're able to be conscious of it or communicative of it in relationship, we can also start to work with these attachment styles in a way that can shift them so that we can be more effective.
Yes.
So one of the things that we've been focusing on, we started focusing on last week, was this concept of conscious relationships. How important is it to be aware of your attachment style if you are desiring to be in a conscious relationship?
So maybe it would help to perhaps outline a couple of the basic attachment
Oh,
styles and
sure.
then address that, because I think as I talk about them, it might become more apparent why
Yeah.
it would be important to know. I had mentioned secure attachment. So this is sort of when individuals are more comfortable with intimacy in their relationships and they feel like they can kind of more fluidly move through states of separateness and togetherness without fears of being abandoned or smothered. And I refer to these individuals as cornerstones. And then we have anxious attachment. And this is when you have someone who's really preoccupied with their romantic relationships and they struggle with the fear of abandonment and rejection most of the time. And they cope with that by people pleasing, and they have a tendency to kind of overgive as a way to try to secure their relationships. And I refer to these as open hearts. Um, then we have people who have a tendency towards what's called avoidance. So they're less likely to, or they're more likely to feel threatened by closeness and intimacy. And so they tend to prioritize their personal freedom above everything else. And so their fear is more of being smothered or controlled or invaded upon in a relationship. And so they tend to insert a lot of distance between themselves and a partner to prevent that from happening. And I refer to them as rolling stones. And lastly, there is Mary Main included an attachment style called disorganized attachment. And sometimes it's referred to as fearful avoidance or anxious avoidance. And that means that these individuals experience a very intense internal conflict over wanting closeness and intimacy while at the same time fearfully avoiding it. And so usually individuals who have this kind of attachment style, they have some form of unresolved, incidental, chronic, or developmental trauma in their life. And I refer to them as spice of lifers. So the benefit of knowing about attachment styles is that if we can become conscious of what parts of ourselves are being activated, and we can have a sense of how our behaviors, thoughts, and feelings are being organized in a way that is reflecting more or less our unconscious automation, then it's kind of like stabbing your finger on a map and then figuring out where you want to go from there, right?
It's a roadmap.
Exactly, kind of like a roadmap or like the love map that I was talking
Yeah.
about before.
You know, as you were going through descriptions of those attachment styles, I had considered myself to be one, and then as you were going through them, I saw myself in a few of them. Is it a possibility that people go in between, or in between two different kind, or could you be more than one at the same time? Is that a possibility?
Yes.
As far as the insecure part goes.
Sure. So there are a lot of self-help and personal development books that have come out over the past couple decades that talk about attachment styles in the way I just described them, which is categorically. But the more that you learn about this and the more you talk to people, and like I have a Facebook group of over 3,000 people, and the more that we hear people talking about these things anecdotally, the more we realize it's much more dimensional than this. And that there are spectrums along which we experience these things. So in terms of how changeable is it, how flexible are we, there is some neurological research that suggests we may have a genetic predisposition towards a particular attachment style. In essence, this is like saying temperament plus social conditioning equals attachment style, or said another way, nature plus nurture equals how we love our partners. And, that's not really a new concept. We've just found better ways of explaining it. So, when we are able to look at images of our brain and say, oh, when I'm preoccupied with my partner, that's the part that lights up. And when I look at how anxiously I respond in other situations, that part lights up as well. That helps us to kind of define the what that we are experiencing, but not necessarily the why. And I don't mean the why that takes us on a treasure hunt into the past, but like the why of why am I experiencing this now? And what does it all mean in the broader context of my life?
I have a